All right, welcome to this video. I'm going to tell you the difference between a custom React hook and a regular function. And I'm also going to show you how to create a custom hook of an infinity scroll in React that I actually created in a previous video, but I didn't create a custom hook with it. So by making it a custom hook, you can reuse it in different applications and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty fun, hopefully. Yeah, let's get started. Okay, so what I've got here is my take on what's the name? Infinity scroll. So I have a video on this where I create this really simple example on how to create an infinity scroll without using resize observer and stuff like that. So I grabbed the scroll top, client height, and scroll height from the current target from the event. And then I have this if statement where I check if the scroll height is minus the scroll top is less or equal to the client height, and that will give us the end of the scroll in that div. So I created a div here where I also set some styling. You can see here I set the overflow, and I have a fixed width and a fixed height. So this will make it scroll, and I have some lorem ipsum text, and also I display a state so that we can see on which page or on what. Yeah, it's not really a page because it should be an infinity scroll, but yeah. I'm sure you get the points. We can check this out here. So I have this div here, and when I scroll, you can see that this one up here changes to 1. And then if I scroll again, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will recognize when I'm at the bottom of the scroll. And in this way, you can create an infinity scroll and, for example, use this for fetching new data in your application and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not really that much, but I will show you how to create a custom hook in React and also talk about, do we even need a custom hook for this one? So what's the difference creating a custom hook versus creating a regular function? And in this case, we actually don't need a custom hook, but it is a custom hook, so to say, because the only thing that will differ here is the naming of the function itself. And a custom hook in React should be named with use before you have the name on the actual function. And I will show you that now. So I will take this logic here and move it to a custom hook. So inside my src folder, I create a new file that I call use infinity scroll. Infinity scroll.tsx. No, it's enough with .ts because I'm not using any JSX inside of it. So I could have the extension of .ts. It's a regular TS file. All right. Then I have this logic here inside of my app component. And this one here, it's a bootstrapped application with Create-React-App, as I always do, and I removed some stuff that I don't need. So I'm using Typescript in this one also. As I always do now, I'm not coding anything in plain JavaScript anymore. I'm using Typescript for everything. So I'm going to take this code here, handle scroll_n, and move it inside of this use infinity scroll. So I create this hook, const use infinity scroll equal, and this is an arrow function. You don't have to have that if you don't want to. And this one, I want to give it a callback because we want to do something when we reach the end of the scrolling. So we're going to take in a callback, and the callback is always going to be a function because this is a callback function that we're going to call inside of this use infinity scroll. So we could set it to this for now, an empty function that returns void, and that will be enough for now. So this is the hook, use infinity scroll. And then I'm going to take this here, everything here, the function here, and I'm going to return it. Like this. I can remove this one here. And we don't have the set state here anymore, but we will call the callback like this. So when we're at the end of this one, when we scroll to the end, we will call the callback. And of course, I have to change some more stuff here. I need a third one of those. And I can also export default or, yeah, export default. Like this. I could also export it up here instead of typing that out like this if I want to do that. But yeah, a default export will be fine. So this is the hook. We will take in the callback and we do everything that we did before, but I moved it inside of a custom hook. And when we reach the end, when we scroll to the bottom, we will call that callback function that we give this custom hook. So I move back to the app, and up here I'm going to import my custom hook. import use infinity scroll from / use infinity scroll. So instead of this one here, I'm going to call my hook const handle scroll, because this hook will give us a function back. As I do here, I return this function here. So we will get a function back that we can use when we scroll on this onScroll event. So const handle scroll, and then I call the use infinity scroll, and I want to give it a callback also. We don't have that callback now, because now TypeScript will complain because it expects one argument, but I haven't provided an argument. So we have to provide the callback function also. And we want to set the state just as we did before when we scroll. So const scroll callback equal. And this is going to be a function. And we set the state. We have the previous state. And we have the previous plus 1. So we add 1 to the state. And then we give this to this one here. Scroll callback. And instead of handle scroll end here on this onScroll handler on the div, we can use this one that we get back here. So remember, this is a function that we get back here, and we can call this function from the onScroll event. Save it. I go back and fail to compile. What's wrong? Yeah, I don't think I saved it. So that's why. Yeah, I didn't save the file. All right. Very important to save your files when you code something. All right, then I try out the scroll, and you can see that it works just exactly as before. The only difference now is that I moved it to a custom hook so that I can use this custom hook in any application where I want to have this scroll functionality. So I could easily just import this hook in another application, attach this function that I get back to the onScroll handler here. And also let's say that we want to use the event, because you can see here that it returns a function that takes in the event, but I don't really use it here because I only call this callback function with nothing. So this event is lost here. But we can pass it along to this function here. And now it will complain because you can see that it expects 0 arguments, but got 1. So let's fix that one. That's because we specify this to just be a function with no arguments, and it will return void. So this event is going to be this event here. So we can take this one and say that the callback can be this one. And we have a pipe. So it can be either of them. Yeah, and of course I have to create an arrow, so it's a function. So it can be either of these ones, and this one needs a parenthesis when it's in a type like this. So something like this. So now we're telling this custom hook that we can take in a callback function that can be of this type, where it has a parameter that takes in the event. And the event should be of the React UI event, and it's an HTML element. Or it can be a function that doesn't need this information at all, so it won't need any parameters. One thing you can do here also is to create a generic, a TypeScript generic, if you want to be more specific and be able to type this yourself, your callback function. So then you can create this generic instead, and you send in the type for the callback function yourself. But in this case, I think it's enough, because we know it's going to be a function that won't return anything because it's a callback. And we have the event here. We know that the event is of this type because we need to attach it to a div that's going to scroll. So we pass this one along. So we know that the callback function needs to have this event type if we want to use it. All right, so let's save it. Go back to the app, and I can create a new callback function. Const scroll callback to equal. And this one is going to take in that event. I can reuse this one. I just copy it, go back to the app like this. And for now, we can just console log out the event.currentTarget.scroll top, for example, like this. And we change this function that we pass along to the use infinity scroll to the new one that I created. Save it, and I go back here. And when I scroll, you can see that I get the value here in the console. I can bump it up. This is the value. You can see that it shows us this value every time I scroll to the bottom. So we know that the event is passed along to our callback function. And that's super sweet, because then we can use that event in this scroll callback also. So what we essentially done here is that we wrapped our callback function with this functionality here that we had in the callback function itself before. And this is a super neat way of doing stuff because you can reuse a lot of code this way by creating these custom hooks here. But we have to ask ourselves, do we really need a custom hook? And what is the difference between a custom hook and a regular function? In this case, we don't actually need to call it use infinity scroll at all. We could just call it infinity scroll like this if we want to do that. Because one thing with custom hooks in React is that you should always call them with use before. And that is because it will make it easier for React to know that this is a custom hook. And what's the difference between a custom hook and a regular function? Well, the difference is you can use React syntax inside of a custom hook. You can use state and stuff. You can use other custom hooks and stuff like that inside of your custom hook. And you can use all the regular hooks, the built-in hooks in React. In this case, we don't have anything here that's actually related to React. This is plain JavaScript. So this could easily just be a regular function. We don't need to have it as a custom hook. You can create it as a regular function and actually import it as a regular function. So I can actually show this. We can change the name here to just infinity scroll like this. I save the file, I go back to the app, and instead of importing use infinity scroll, I import infinity scroll. The file name can still be this. I don't have to change that now. And I change it to infinity scroll. Save it, go back, and you can see that it works just the same as before. And I can change this callback to the other one where I set the state. This one is actually not in the hook itself, so we can set the state because we're just passing this along. Even that it's a regular function, it will work. And you can see that it starts to count, so it works. So this is really not a custom hook at all. It's just a function. It's a JavaScript function or a TypeScript function in this case. So that's the big difference. If you want to use some React syntax like state, and if you want to use the built-in hooks or a custom hook, you should create a custom hook that specifies the name with use before you have the name. And that will make React know that this is a custom hook because I can't use the React hooks inside of a regular function. That's the biggest difference. And in this case, we don't use any React syntax at all. So it's just plain regular code outside of React. So that's the big difference. I hope you learned some stuff in this video. You should have learned how to create a custom hook, and you should have learned the difference between a custom hook and a regular function and when to use them. So there's no need to create custom hooks if you don't need to do it, if it's just plain JavaScript or TypeScript in that function. All right, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that notification button, and see you in another one.